It is funny because I won Indiana all 3 times by a landslide, and I wasn't working on it very hard. Would have been nice. I think we would have picked up 2 seats if we did that. You had one gentleman, the head of the Senate, I guess, Bray, whatever his name is. I heard he was against it. He'll probably lose his next primary, whatever that is. I hope he does, but because he's done a tremendous disservice. I mean, think of it. It's a great place. I love the people there. They love me. You know, we won in a landslide all 3 times. Got tremendous votes. I got record votes. And then there's no reason for doing that. And the Democrats do it to us, so I can't imagine that they do it. But I wasn't very much involved. But there's a man named Bray, as head of the Senate. Was that Bray? Is that the name, Bray? I mean, I'm sure that whenever his primary is, it's, I think, in 2 years, but I'm sure he'll go down. He'll go down. I'll certainly support anybody that wants to go against him.
Well, if I could ask you briefly about
what just happened in Indiana could cost the GOP everything in 2026, and the people responsible aren't Democrats. They're freaking Republicans. We're going to look at what happened in Indiana. We're going to see how it's awakened a sleeping giant among the MAGA grassroots with a terrible resolve. And we're going to see how President Trump plans on finally thwarting the feckless rhino wing of the Republican Party once and for all. Greetings, everyone. It is Live Stream Friday. I am your host, your revving up to rant host, Dr. Steve, your Patriot professor. Nevertheless, continuing to celebrate what you made possible back on November the 5th. So if you want a front row seat on how you are changing the world in ways you never even imagined, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You're not going to want to miss a single episode. And boy, are we going to be talking about how you can change the world in today's Live Stream Friday, starting with changing the GOP. As always, we got a jam-packed show for you today. Our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments, your questions. It will be my privilege to read them and answer them during this live stream. I'm sure you have plenty you want to get out. I also want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that's our amazing friends over at Augusta Gold. Have you seen the price of gold and silver of late? They're absolutely skyrocketing. Gold in particular is up 50% year to date. Silver is up over 100%. And what's so key here is that this is not a coincidence. It's the direct result of President Trump's golden age pro-growth agenda. Goldman Sachs already has raised their 2026 outlook for gold to $4,900 per ounce. Some think they're being too conservative. And to make it even better, we've got over 3 more glorious years of these America First policies ahead of us. This is exactly why smart Americans are taking control of their retirement account by backing them with physical gold and silver. My friends over at Augusta Precious Metals are so excited to help you be a part of this new gold rush. Augusta works with Americans who have over $50,000 in their IRAs, 401ks, or other retirement accounts to make the smart move into smart money. They're patriots just like you and me, and they would love to chat with you. Give them a call at 844-763-3908 or text Turley to 35052. Turley to 35052. Seriously, again, this is the time. Central banks around the world are stocking up on gold and silver as we speak. Let the patriots over at Augusta Precious Metals make sure you do not miss out this Christmas. Text Turley to 35052 or click on the link below and go to turleygold.com, and you'll get instant access to a free 2-minute report that reveals the greatest threat to your retirement today. Again, that's turleygold.com or text Turley at 35052 and talk with our good friends over at Augusta Gold today. All right. If you will indulge me here, I am going to start off as your Patriot professor with a bit of a rant today. All right. I'm getting up in front of the classroom, and before we do anything, before we open our books, before we take our notes, I'm going to rant. Now, as always, what we do on this channel, we will discuss solutions, right? We never, ever doom and gloom here on this channel, ever. That we are a doom-free zone, right? We're a gloom-free zone. We always apply what's called the Stockdale principle to everything in life, particularly in politics. If you don't know the Stockdale principle, it's a principle that guides this channel. It's one of the reasons you're a subscriber, if you know what it is. And if not, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It's a principle that strategists from business to sports have named after Admiral James Stockdale. Stockdale was the most senior naval officer held captive as a prisoner of war in Vietnam. He was Ross Perot's running mate back in 92. And during his time as a prisoner of war, when he and his men were tortured and starved and threatened with death literally each and every day for years, Stockdale developed a fundamental principle that he actually called a paradox that provided the means to survive the torture. And what Stockdale pointed out was there were basically two types of people that did not survive POW camps. Two types of people. On the one hand, you had the naive optimists, and these were the prisoners who kept saying, "Oh, it's all going to work out. We'll be out by Christmas." And then, "Oh, don't worry, we'll be out by Easter." And then, "Oh, don't worry, we'll be out by summer. Don't worry, we'll be out by the fall. Don't worry, we'll be out by Christmas." And Stockdale said those are the men who died of a broken heart. But you know the other group that didn't make it out, right? Right? You Twitter or X doom scrollers, right? Listen carefully. Those were the despondent pessimists, the black pillars. The naive optimists died from crushing disappointment. The black pillars died from hopeless despair. And the key to overcoming our current predicament, according to the Stockdale principle, is that we have to bring together seemingly opposite dispositions. So that's why they often call it the Stockdale paradox. You have to soberly and bravely confront the brutal facts of the dire situation you're in. And at the same time, you can never, ever, ever lose hope that you're going to prevail. You have to confront, in total honesty, the brutal facts of your current situation, no matter how dire. And you can never, ever, ever lose hope that you're going to overcome and prevail. That's the Stockdale principle. And it's the ultimate key to winning, to perpetual triumph, because it is the very pattern of reality. It's the pattern of biblical redemptive history. It's the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's the lunar calendar and the solar calendar. It's darkness and light. It's the Friday of the cross and the Sunday of the empty tomb. We avoid both disappointment because we recognize the seriousness of the situation we're in, and we avoid despair because we know that we've already won the battle. The battle's already been won for us, and therefore we never, ever lose hope, and therefore we never, ever stop fighting as long as the battle continues, no matter how bad things get. This is the stuff of the Lord of the Rings, right? All right. Now, that said, you will just have to indulge me a bit here as I rant about the utterly feckless, worthless, witless, good-for-nothing, pathetic, indolent, incompetent, corrupt, shiftless, hopeless, hard-ass, heartless, fat-ass, bug-eyed, stiff-legged, spotty-lipped, worm-headed sack of monkey shits that are the so-called lawmakers in the Republican Party. That's my homage to Clark Griswold at Christmas Vacation, when he too got stiffed by his boss out of his Christmas bonus. And yes, I am implicating the whole of the Republican Party here. This isn't an Indiana problem. This is a Republican problem. Yes, we found out in the last 24 hours that Indiana Republicans are particularly loathsome. But the vileness, this propensity to want to vote more in favor of Gavin Newsom than Donald Trump, is a vicious virus that plagues the Republican Party as a whole, among its leadership, its so-called lawmakers, as it were. We have to remember that the Republican Party is an inherently dysfunctional party in a way that the Democrats simply are not. All right, that's just the way it is. If you think about it, when it comes to things like spending, the accumulation of power, the growth of government, political domination, the Democrats are all in 100%. There is absolute unanimity there. The Democrats are united in their quest for power. They're united in their quest to raise taxes. They're united in their thirst for regulation. They will collectively do anything and everything together to achieve those goals. But when you're dealing with Republicans, like it or not, there are basically three oftentimes incommensurate factions in the Republican Party. At least three. There is the old, lagging, big government rhino neocon wing, the Bush, Romney, Ryan, Rove, Pence wing of the party. There's the more libertarian small government wing, the Masseys, the Pauls. And then there's the MAGA wing. And MAGA is, without a doubt, the biggest and most formidable coalition of them all. MAGA won all 7 swing states, a feat that not even Obama could pull off. MAGA gave the Republicans back-to-back presidential vote tally records in 2016, 2020, and 2024 that make Reagan's victories look small by comparison. Remember, in 2020, Trump was the first incumbent to see his vote share actually go up, actually increase exponentially in decades. Obama barely held on for re-election in 2012. His vote share shrank so much. The MAGA coalition shifted the entire nation. Over 90% of all counties throughout the country shifted right. We won whites overwhelmingly. We won non-whites. We won the working class, both white and non-white. We won Latinos. We won black men. We won virtually every single rural county in the country, all the while flipping Miami-Dade red. By contrast, libertarians have never won a nationwide election. And the Rhino neocon wing haven't won a national contest in over 20 freaking years. And yet, that Rhino neocon wing remain ensconced in the power structure of virtually every single red state in the nation. This dysfunctional party, where some want to raise taxes and others want to lower them. Some want to increase spending, others want to decrease spending. Some want open borders and others want them closed. Some want us to be awash in H-1B visas where others want to shut it off completely. This dysfunctionality nevertheless resolves itself at the leadership level when it comes to the continued dominance of the Rhino neocon wing among the apparatus of the party. Their strategists, their advisors, their donors continue to define the Republican Party in virtually every single red state in the nation, most especially Indiana. President Trump just watched 21 Republican state senators stab him in the back. The MAGA faithful all across the country, the tens of millions of rank-and-file grassroots activists who spent countless hours sacrificing their time, their talent, and their treasure to hand the Republican Party one of the single most decisive presidential victories in decades, just watched 21 Republican state senators stab them in the back. Everyone who loves and defends faith, family, and freedom, who are bravely standing up to the cultural Marxist revolutionaries who want to overthrow everything we hold dear, just watch 20 freaking 1 Republican state senators intentionally and gleefully stab them in the back. Trump won Indiana by 19 points. It was a blowout. It was a blowout in 3 elections in a row. The people of Indiana love him. They voted for him in a landslide. And yet, their own Republican senators didn't just ignore him. They didn't just disregard them. They didn't just dismiss them. They betrayed them. They knowingly and deliberately, on behalf of an old relic, literally from the Cold War, the Rhino wing of the party, the Mike Pence wing of the party, the Romney, Ryan, Rove wing of the party, they deliberately betrayed them. The GOP party is now officially the Judas party. They are the betrayal party. They are the turncoat party. They are a party apparatus and leadership that hates their own voters. Seriously, have you ever seen a party leadership that so loathes their own voters as the Republican Party? Have you ever seen a political party that so betrays the very rank and file grassroots that puts them into power in the first place? They despise us. They disdain us. They revile us. They literally live in an entirely different cultural space than their constituents. And the gap, the alienation between these Republican leaders and the voters has never been wider. Again, what happened yesterday in Indiana wasn't just disappointing. It wasn't simply disheartening or, frankly, demoralizing. It was an outright betrayal. This was voting in such a way advocated by Gavin Newsom over the advocacies of President Trump. And it's a betrayal that could change the course of American politics in a matter of mere 10 months from now. All right, now, there's my rant. So, let's assess what's going on here, all right? Now, just in case you've been living under a rock over the past 24 hours, Indiana's Republican-controlled state Senate, a supermajority Republican Senate, just voted down a congressional redistricting plan that would have given the GOP 2 more seats in Congress for 2026. The proposal easily passed Indiana's House, but when it reached their Senate, it didn't just lose, it lost overwhelmingly. The vote was 31-19 against the plan. 21 Republicans voted no. 21 Republicans in a state Trump won by nearly 20 points decided to protect 2 Democrat congressmen instead of securing Republican victories. The proposed map would have given Republicans a clean sweep of all 9 congressional seats in Indiana, up from the 7 they currently hold. It would have eliminated the districts of Democrat Representatives Andre Carson from Indianapolis and Frank Mervan from Northwest Indiana near Chicago. These are safe blue seats that could easily be turned red with the stroke of a pen. But instead, Republican state senators chose to keep the current map and hand those seats back to Democrats on a silver platter. And who led the betrayal? Well, you heard it earlier. That's Indiana Senate President pro tempore Roderick Bray. Trump called him out by name. Bray has been fighting against this redistricting effort for months, and he finally got his way. J.D. Vance tweeted out, quote, Rod Bray, the Senate leader in Indiana, has consistently told us he would not fight redistricting while simultaneously whipping his members against it. That level of dishonesty cannot be rewarded, and the Indiana GOP needs to choose a side. And Trump himself did not mince words about what happens next, as you saw earlier, speaking from the Oval Office. The president said Bray has done a tremendous disservice and vowed to support anyone who runs against him in the next primary. Trump made it crystal clear Bray and his friends will not be in politics for long. And that's because they did, in fact, choose a side. They sided with the Mike Pence wing of the party. They sided with the neocon Rhino wing that hates MAGA. They hate populists. They hate the working class. They hate that Trump stole the party from them. They hate JD. And most especially, they hate you. Don Trump Jr. said it best just before the vote. It was at the end of one of his tweets, quote, these Rhino consultants sabotaging MAGA need to be rooted out of the GOP. And that's the key. That's absolutely key here. It's not the politicians per se. This is what we've got to get. It's not the politician. The Rhino politicians are merely the fruit, the rotten fruit of the Republican apparatus tree, of the Republican advisor class, their strategists, their lobbyists, their state chairmen, their precinct captains, their outreach directors. It's the entire Republican apparatus that is at war with MAGA. They are at war with Trump. They are at war with you. They make no mistake, as you saw with Liz Cheney, as you saw with Dick Cheney, they would rather have Kamala Harris in power than Trump. They would rather have the open border policies of the Democrat Party than America First. That's who these people are. And make no mistake, it's got nothing to do with ideology. Nothing. That's used as the veneer to give them a sense of virtue signaling, that they're on some high ground when they betray us. No, it's their donors. It's their business interests. They're all interlocked. They're all intermixed. They just want to keep the money flowing into their bank accounts. That's it. They're scum. And it's defeating this apparatus that must be our number one priority going into 2026. It's not defeating the Democrats per se. That's a given. But it's defeating something more fundamental that'll guarantee the defeating of the Democrats. It's defeating a lagging Rhino neocon wing of the Republican Party that is actively sabotaging our efforts to make America great again. And that is what we're going to be looking at next. But first, if you're just joining us, our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments and your questions. It will be my honor to answer them and read them out here on this live stream. Also, this is a good time to remember that every one of us has to make sure that we take the steps to protect ourselves and our loved ones online. And that actually begins with your home title. Now, if you're a home owner like me, you need to ask yourself the question, when was the last time you checked on your home title? Yeah, that's the legal proof you own your house, that they're all online. Well, if you're like me, the answer is never. I didn't even know I was supposed to check it. Well, the problem today is with AI and with cyber world and all that, scammers are stealing home titles, and your equity is a target. And it works insanely easily. It's the criminals forge your signature on one document. They use a fake notary stamp. They pay a small fee with your county, and that's it. Boom. Your home title's been transferred out of your name, and then they take out loans using your equity. Some even sell your property, and you won't even know it's happened until months later when you start getting collection notices, foreclosure notices. That's why you need to stop what you're doing right now and find out today if you've already been a victim, if someone's already been snooping around your title. And it's easy to find out. You just use promo code Turley Talks at HomeTitleLock.com to make sure your title is still in your name. You also get a free title history report. Plus, you're going to get a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes. And if fraud should happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. Go to HomeTitleLock.com right now. Use promo code TurleyTalks. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code TurleyTalks. So in the end, really, there's only one way to solve this. There's only one way to bring an end to the Judas Party once and for all. Now, remember, the Rhino, Romney, Ryan, Rove, Pence wing of the Republican Party has not won a national election over 20 years, right? 2004 was the last time, and barely. The Tea Party was able to give them a brief breath of life in 2010. Tea Party was not the Rhino wing. Tea Party was much more of a grassroots wing, very much a Ross Perot wing. They came in 2010, came in 2014, but that was about it. The globalist GOP is politically dead at the grassroots level. And yet, even though they're dead among the rank and file, they continue to exercise inordinate influence and gatekeeping power at the various levels of the Republican Party apparatus. So it's vital we realize that a political party is not fundamentally its politicians. It's not even fundamentally its grassroots. It's not its politicians. It's not its candidates. It's not its activists. It's not even its political platform. We talk about it all the time on this channel. Politics is about power. Politics is about power. If you do not have power to institute your agenda is dead. Doesn't even exist in reality. Political party is first and foremost power, and that power is exercised in the form of a corporation, in the form of a legal entity that has an entire governance structure and apparatus that is ultimately determinative of what kind of politicians and policies are going to represent it. Now, I'm saying this because it's vital that we realize that this goes way beyond simply primarying politicians we don't like. The problems of the GOP are systemic. They're literally, the technical term is they're radical, meaning they go down to the very structural roots of the party. Radix is Latin for root. The party apparatus is comprised of chairmen and directors and secretaries and treasuries and strategists and advisors and media consultants who coordinate with Fox News hosts to give platforms to Lindsey Graham and the like. That's not mistake. That's all directed. That's all choreographed. They have finance directors. They have donor butlers. They have PAC directors. They have grassroots organizers. They have policy researchers. They've got lobbyists, and on and on and on and on. And we can primary all these rhinos all we want, as long as that structure is in place, as long as that apparatus is in place that remains dominated by rhino, neocon, Bushites, and Rovites who hate and despise Trump and the MAGA wing of the Republican Party. All we're doing is putting a Band-Aid on a compound fracture. So the key incongruence here, the key dysfunctionality here, is that the Republican Party is MAGA in its grassroots, but it's rhino in its leadership and corporate structure. It's populist in its grassroots, but it's establishment in its leadership and corporate structure. So what then do we have to do? What's the solution to all of this betrayal that we just see over and over and over and over and over and over and over again among the Republicans? Well, it's not hard. I mean, given the fact that rhinos are no longer, neocon rhinos are no longer viable politically at the grassroots level, there is no coalition for them. That died in 2004. Again, it barely hung on to win Ohio. And now Ohio is fully populist. Now Florida is fully populist. They don't have a coalition. That coalition is dead. The Bush coalition is dead. So given that they have no viability at the grassroots level, then there is only one viable solution when you have discrepancy between the grassroots and the administration, as it were, the apparatus. The only one viable solution is we have to have a third party takeover of the Republican Party. That's fundamentally it. We have to have a third party takeover of the Republican Party. There has to be a total and complete house cleaning of the entire Republican establishment by outside forces to align the apparatus with the activists, to align the apparatus with the grassroots. Now, I put it that way because this has already been done at the executive level. This is the secret sauce to Donald J. Trump. Trump was a third-party candidate, what's often referred to as a bootleg candidate. I'll talk about that in a second. He was a third-party bootleg candidate who won a major party nomination. Trump was a third-party candidate who won a major party nomination. So what do I mean by a bootleg candidate? Well, political scholars have noticed that over the last 10, 20 years or so, particularly on the continent of Europe, when mainstream globalist parties, right, they're center left, they're center right, they're Republicans, they're Democrats, right, or they're Tories and their Labor Party in Britain. When the mainstream center left, center right globalist parties refuse to deal with the issues that concern the people, like border security, economic security, cultural security, and because in the end they refuse to acknowledge the concerns of the people because they're not beholden to the will of the people. They're beholden to the values, interests, concerns of the donors, most particularly globalist donors, right, and the permanent political class. So when the people voice their concerns over, say, mass immigration or having their wages lowered because of the cheap foreign labor or their jobs being shipped overseas, whenever the leadership of these mainstream center-right, center-left parties are confronted with the demand to secure their nation's borders, for example, these center-left, center-right globalist parties, these neolibs, neocons, always respond with politically correct accusations. They always respond by accusing their voters of racism, bigotry, xenophobia. I mean, this is exactly how French President Emmanuel Macron consistently try to handle the surge in nationalist populism that's taking over France. Remember the Yellow Vest uprisers, right, from a few years back? He originally labeled them, I kid you not, as anti-Semitic bigots. What's his name? Trudeau did the exact same thing in Canada with the Freedom Convoy. These are all anti-Semitic racist bigots. And here's the key. Because both the center left and the center right, because of their shared commitment to globalism and progressive inspired values and the like, because both the center left and center right reject the concerns of European citizens over unfettered immigration, what that did is it opened up the opportunity for bootleggers, political bootleggers to come in. So you know what a bootlegger is, right? You make alcohol illegal. You tell people no, they want to drink, but you say, nope, you can't. I'm not going to help you. Well, what do? Well, they turn to the black market. They turn to these bootlegger politicians and parties who found a cash cow in supplying the very nationalist populist leadership that the centrist parties refuse to make available. So that's what we've seen in Europe. That's what gave rise to the National Rally in France, to the Brothers of Italy, to the AfD in Germany, the Sweden Democrats, the True Finns, the Swiss People's Party. We could go on and on and on. Nationalist populist third parties pop up rather organically when the two main center-right, center-left parties ignore and dismiss their concerns, their values, their interests. And that is exactly what happened with President Trump and continues to happen with him ever since 2016. Trump was a third-party candidate, a bootleg candidate who won a major party nomination. And it's that hybridity that we have to bring to the Republican Party as a whole, simply because creating a third party here in the States isn't viable. It may be viable in Europe, but it ain't viable here. Just ask Elon and the America Party. It went nowhere. it's just not viable given the way our election laws are written. The American two-party system really is structurally locked in because of several factors. Ballot access, right? Third parties have to collect thousands upon thousands of signatures in each state just to appear on the ballots, while Democrats and Republicans are automatically listed. Or you have debate thresholds where major parties set polling requirements. You have to reach at least 15%. And what they do then is if you don't, they exclude third-party candidates from presidential debates and getting the notoriety there. I mean, you have all kinds of hurdles to overcome that generally exhaust all the energy that a third party challenge would bring. But as Trump proved, there's another option to this. You don't have to have a viable third party. You can actually have a third party takeover of a major political party. And while Trump did this at the executive level, we now, nearly 10 years later, we need to do this at the national and apparatus level of the GOP. And to me, this is where Elon comes in and his resources and his infrastructure. This is where people like Scott Presler come in, Turning Point come in. This is where Cliff Maloney, the Pennsylvania Chase, come in. Third-party activists, as it were, can indeed take over a major party apparatus through grassroots infiltration from the bottom up. And it's been done successfully multiple times in American history. I mean, the key, as I understand it, is capturing 3 levels of the administration. You have to capture, first and foremost, the precinct captain and county chair positions. Those are the lowest levels that most establishment politicians ignore. And these positions often go uncontested or unfulfilled. So they're the lowest level, the lowest hanging fruit, but they're also extremely fruitful. By organizing dedicated activists to fill these slots, outsiders can gradually control state party conventions. They can elect sympathetic state chairs, and they can ultimately influence the national committee. So you have to take over the precinct captain and county chair positions. Secondly, you're going to have to dominate the donor class because the party always goes where the money is. That's just inevitable. And the good news here is that Elon Musk more or less has that covered just himself, right? I mean, Trump himself is inordinately influential in all of this, calling all of his billionaire buddies who are pouring lots and lots of money his way. We have over $1 billion in Trump's political war chest as we speak, while the DNC is basically broke. They're taking out loans just to keep the lights on. So you have to get the party chairs, you have to get the donor class, and you have to have a major get out the vote network that guarantees Republican victories in key swing states, like we saw with Early Vote Action, Pennsylvania Chase, Turning Point USA, that keeps the donors writing the check. So this all works in a feedback system. It's all cybernetic. All 3 levels have to be working in tandem permanently, 24/7, to stave off the infection of the old guard from coming back in with their strategists, their own advisors, their own donors, whose first order of business is to thwart anything MAGA, as we saw, for example, with Liz Cheney and the like. We have to take over the precinct leadership, county chair positions, who ultimately serve as the gatekeepers of who gets nominated. We have to take over the donors, the ones financing the party, and we have to take over the get out the vote networks that guarantee victory, that keep the party financed. Now, we've seen this happen many times throughout history. That's the good news. We're not trying to do anything that's unprecedented here. We saw it most recently. I mentioned the Tea Party movement. We saw it most recently back in 2009. The Tea Party movement executed this perfectly within the Republican Party grassroots conservatives. Grassroots. So you had party. You just had a populist uprising in many respects, angry about bailouts, Obama's policies, and they end up flooding local GOP meetings. They end up electing Tea Party candidates as precinct captains and county chairs, and they leveraged that power to primary establishment Republicans back in 2010. This is when Rand Paul came in. This is when Mike Lee came in. And by 2014, they really had fundamentally transformed the GOP's ideology and personnel. They even defeated, if you remember, House Majority Leader Eric Cantor. Do you remember him? The first time in history a sitting majority leader lost a primary. They got rid of him. So this is one example of how a movement can quickly take over a party apparatus. But unfortunately, the Tea Party sold out in a way. They got diluted after the 2014 by Boehner and the Ryan wing of the party. They never really mustered the donors that they needed. They never really mustered the kind of get out the vote campaign they needed. But in terms of at least the party chairs and the precincts around the various states, they were very, very effective. Another example that did bring in both precinct level and the get out the vote level was the moral majority movement, the Christian, which eventually became the Christian Coalition. That radically reshaped the Republican Party to this day. So starting in around 1979, evangelical Christians, previously, they were either politically inactive or, ironically, they were overwhelmingly Southern Democrat. They helped Jimmy Carter win back in 76. Well, after the disappointment of his term, they took over the Republican Party machinery in Southern states, and they helped basically flip the whole of the South red. So Jerry Falwell, Pat Robertson, they mobilized church networks to pack county conventions and state committees, and they effectively shifted the GOP from, your Rockefeller sort of country club Republicanism to social conservatism. And then they also had their own, because of the church networks, they had their own get out the vote networks that were very, very effective. And I think that's something really the moral majority Christian Coalition sort of take over the party is but again, it was limited. It only went so far as to the evangelicals, about 30% of the vote. Whereas MAGA just, it brings in the evangelicals, it brings in white working class, it brings in Latinos, it brings in Black men, it brings in a massive national coalition that can do very much the same thing and permanently change the party for the foreseeable future. So the Trump MAGA movement, I think, began that work of taking over the party as a whole with Mike Whatley and Laura Trump when they became co-chairs of the RNC back in 2024. But they both have since resigned. And as we're seeing, the party apparatus is going back to defaulting as a fully Rhino Mike Pence neocon party. And so the pattern is clear. What we have to do now is exactly what Mike Whatley and Laura Trump did in 2024. We have to have dedicated America First activists willing to do often unglamorous local party work in order to hijack existing party infrastructure without building a third party from scratch, right? You can't do that. That's not viable. You have to take over one of the existing parties. It's slow, agonizing work, but like what we saw in 2024, the results are absolutely and spectacularly glorious. And the good news is that Trump's allies are mobilizing as we speak. Alex Bruesewitz, a close Trump ally, posted that they'll be launching primary challenges against every last senator who voted no. Turning Point USA and the Club for Growth are already running ads and organizing rallies to unseat these senators. But, and this is absolutely key, until we capture every single level of the national and state party apparatus, we are going to constantly be taking 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. That's what we have to do from this point forward. We have to bring in Elon and all the MAGA organizations, and they have to coordinate a full takeover of the party. And when we do that, which we will eventually, it's not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. When we do that, that is when the Judas Party will finally become the true GOP, the grand old Patriot Party for generations to come. Over to you. Enough of my ranting. I want to hear what you have to say. As Josh, our moderator, assembles your questions and comments, if you've been waiting to get into crypto, and escape the fledgling Wall Street globalist system. But you've always been a little bit hesitant with, well, I don't know how to get into crypto. I don't like the volatility, whatever. Guess what? This is the best opportunity you're ever going to get eased into crypto. The crypto revolution that's happening right now represents the single largest wealth transfer in American history. Over 80,000 new millionaires were created last year because of crypto. But of course, the turnoff is its volatility. The extreme highs are great. The 30, 40, 50% return, sure. But what about those equally extreme lows? Well, guess what? Your experience of that volatility is now officially a thing of the past. Meet Block Trust IRA. They've got a super AI system that Bitcoin Magazine has named the #1 crypto technology platform in the world. That's among 1,500 global competitors. And what that super AI does is it works 24/7 to analyze global market data, and it predicts with uncanny accuracy the highs and the lows of crypto volatility. So Block Trust IRA then sells at the highs, and then they buy again at the lows, and that mitigates your volatility, all the while you stand to make incredible gains. That's why I'm a proud client of Block Trust IRA. I've been for a long time. I have my own account with them, and I absolutely love them, and I know you will too. So if you've never gotten into the crypto game yet, but you've wanted to, let Block Trust IRA ease you in. Click on that link below or visit turleytalkscrypto.com and find out how they can help you join the Trump financial revolution. It's finally giving forgotten Americans access to the greatest crypto wealth opportunity in history. And the best part, for a limited time, they're offering my viewers up to $2,500 in bonus crypto when you open up an account with them. Absolutely amazing stuff. Don't wait. Click on that link below. Visit turleytalkscrypto.com. That is turleytalkscrypto.com. All right, what do we got? Upshoot. Thank you for the euros. What is your personal strategy to keep focused on Christ in these crazy times with so much stuff going to get one's attention? God bless you. Oh, thank you, Upshoot. It's a beautiful question. And I love how it sets the priorities for us here. Well, I mean, a number of things. So I do try to structure my day in priorities. So, what are our major priorities? We have all kinds of priorities, right? We have spiritual priorities. We have physical, health priorities, relational priorities, financial, professional, you name it, right? So, and then what I do is I deliberately structure my day to mirror the prioritization of each one of those areas of life. So the very first thing I do each day, very first thing when I wake up, is I make the sign of the cross. I have an icon of Christ next to my bed. I touch the ground. I kiss the icon. I say prayers immediately, particularly Kyrie Jesu Christe eleison me, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me. I begin the day literally the moment I wake up in prayer. And I come downstairs, I make some coffee. I'm up usually relatively early, make some coffee, and then I go down into my basement and I do a full half hour of prayer while also working out. I'm a stacking kind of guy. I like doing multiple tasks at the same time. It's not so much multitasking where my attention is on multiple things. My attention's on only one thing, but I can also be doing something at the same time that's able to take care of another priority. And so that I get on the treadmill. And so I do my prayers, and I have a monastery, Holy Cross Monastery in West Virginia that live streams their morning liturgies. And so I tune in the morning, and I just soak myself in that sacred space, as it were, while I'm doing a good half hour, 40 minutes of just relatively light walk work on the treadmill, but it gets my body going and so forth. So I always start there. And then just so much of what I do throughout the day does involve analyzing these events that are happening in our 24-hour news cycle in light of this sort of civilizational cosmocracy that I think the world is moving towards, this archaeofuturist world where the reawakening of religious sentiments are literally everywhere now. And so I'm constantly focused on, shall we say, applied theology. And then, of course, mealtime, other prayer times. And I do try as much as I can to, at some point, immerse myself in good literature, reading like Dostoevsky, would be an example, Tolstoy or Shakespeare. I listen to a lot of music. I love Bach. And Bach, of course, his whole sonic architecture is rooted in sacred numerology and geometry. So there's just a sense of a cosmic harmony in my life. And that way I don't get too upset about things, because I know, literally, as Charlie said, his favorite saying was, "This too shall pass." And so that whatever bad is happening, it will pass. Whatever good is happening, it will pass. And so it's both a hopeful and humbling way of orienting yourself. But you can only orient yourself that way if you're staying connected to eternity. So there you go. Thank you, Ipshu. That's a beautiful question. It's me, BW. What do our recent string of losses mean for midterms, in your opinion? Too soon to say. We'll have to, if the Republicans don't do anything, then we're going to lose. I mean, it's just very easy. It's very simple. Would you vote for them? Would you vote for this party? Right. And I think they're intentionally trying to lose, to be honest with you. At least that's what Mike Cernovich is saying. They want to thwart. They want to thwart the upcoming midterms so as to thwart JD. They don't want JD, but they want someone else like a Ron DeSantis or whatever, who occupies more of their cultural space than JD does. JD would just be MAGA on steroids. So they're doing their best to thwart. Again, we saw it with Cheney. We saw it with, oh gosh, all kinds of people. Who's the former Kasich, John Kasich, former governor of Ohio. We saw it all over where they were endorsing Kamala. Let that hit you. They would rather have Kamala as president than Trump. You just got to let that hit you. And they would rather have Gavin Newsom. And that's what you saw in Indiana. So if they don't get their act together, we'll lose. No. Now, that said, I don't think that's a big deal, to be honest, because Congress is inherently dysfunctional now. Congress hasn't done anything major since the Affordable Care Act back in 2010. So it's literally been about, and because then the Tea Party took over shortly thereafter. Actually, if I recall, they voted for it right after they got shellacked in the elections there. They voted for it, I think, in December. So it got rushed through. They knew they weren't going to have the House much longer. And so we took the House in 2010. We took the House in 2014, or took the Senate in 2014. But and it's going back and forth, 2018 and 2022. But bottom line, there has not been any major legislation that's been able to overcome the Senate filibuster for almost 16 years now. So Congress is totally dysfunctional. So I don't care. Let them take it. Let them. I don't see them taking over the Senate at this point. Just again because, red states will vote red, generally speaking. Again, we'll see. But they're going to have to. They're going to have to do something about this, because even just the mayoral race in Miami, 140,000 people came out for the last mayoral race there. Barely 30,000 showed up for this one. Nobody came out. Nobody cared. Now, again, that might be good news that people are pretty satisfied with Trump. His polls have all been going up, right? Mark Mitchell's been talking about that. His polls are going up, I think, about 5 points over the last couple of weeks. People like the blowing up the narco terrorists. They like the America First national security, the civilizationalist. the civilizational sphere around the Western Hemisphere. They like his attention to cost of living, domestic issues. Just there's very little not to like right now. They like whenever he talks about getting rid of the income tax. Very little not to like. But in terms of the party as a whole, what is there to like right now? What is it? Seriously, what is there to like? I know Congress is dysfunctional, but that does, and I know the GOP is dysfunctional, and that is thwarting any hopes they have of winning a majority. Again, I don't think it's a big deal in the end. I don't think Hakeem Jeffries, the clown, is going to be able to do a lot any more than Nancy Pelosi. Say what you want about her. She was freaking shrewd. And she knew how to make Trump's life difficult. But even then, she couldn't do anything in the House. She couldn't do nothing. So, Brian, my friend, after seeing all the nonsense of blue states, it made me yet more glad to reside in Southwest Florida. What do you make of the latest Abrego Garcia release? And yet another grand jury refused, I saw that, to indict Letitia James. And a judge threw out some of the evidence against Comey. Are these lawbreakers just going to get away with it, even under this administration? Yeah, I'm with you, Brian. I'm with you on that. Well, first of all, thanks for showing off as I languish here in the greater Philly area, very, very blue area of Delaware. Yeah, so the Abrego Garcia release, I can't even believe he's still here. Again, it's never ceases to amaze me, this sort of tyranny structure where you can come into the nation completely thwarting our laws, but then claim to deserve and be entitled to a legalistic application of law when they're trying to get rid of you. And that's what we see. Abrego Garcia is just a poster child. I just don't get too distracted by it because, the numbers are in. What are we at now? 2.5, 2.7 million gone. Illegals gone either by force or voluntary. And the Letitia James, we'll see. It looks like the ideologically compromised juries are pushing back here in blue states. Same even with Comey, with the Northern Virginia juries. They're just, yeah. I mean, first of all, I would love to see Trump get rid of the DC court circuit. I mean, it's not technically, it shouldn't have any jurisdiction of its own. It should belong to Maryland or Northern Virginia. Again, not that makes it much better, Southern Maryland or Northern Virginia. But at least DC is, what was the comedian who pointed out? Oh, I think it wasn't a comedian. It was Mark Stein who pointed out that DC votes Democrat at greater numbers than when Saddam Hussein had staged, his sham election, or when any of these dictators stage their sham elections. They'll still make it just like they'll get 85% of the vote. Whereas in Washington, D.C., literally like 92, 93, 94% of the residents of D.C. vote Democrat. It is that insane. It is that much of a Politburo mentality. So I just think anything where we're depending on them for any kind of national, legal issue needs to be put into a different court system. They have to be banned. So we'll see. But yeah, we had a really good week last week with the Tennessee election. That was really good. Again, the what is it? The partisan voter index, isn't that what it is? PVI. Partisan voter index in that county is 10% Republican. And the Republican came in winning 9. So election analysts argue that's a +1 Democrat electorate for 2026. They ain't going to win much with that. I know Trump won it by 22 points, but that's Trump. Trump crushes stuff and then incumbents will win it by huge margins. But with a partisan voter index of 10, and then your candidate wins by 9, it suggests Democrats are nowhere near as mobilized and ready to go in parts of the country other than Virginia and New Jersey, or California for that matter. But boy, yeah, talk about a kick in the gut, over the last few days. And again, these are unforced errors. These are Republicans doing it to us. It's just they're going to have to get their act together. But this comes down to Trump. This comes down to Trump and Trump taking over the Republican Party at the apparatus level. Otherwise, yeah, we're shot. It's a look at what's happened to the Tories, Brian, in the UK. I mean, they're a shell of what they are, and for them, it's a third party that emerges, the Reform Party, Nigel Farage. For us, it's got to be a third party takeover of a major party, because a third party just simply isn't viable. MAGA 24, Dr. Steve, will the Trump administration focus on stopping drugs coming from Venezuela resonate with the voting public as an American first agenda, or will it seem that they are more interested in international affairs? Great question, MAGA 24. Well, the good news, I don't have it available to me, but Rich Barris, Mark Mitchell, those who were very, very concerned about precisely this issue, have all found in their surveys and their polls that Trump blowing up narco-terrorist boats in the Caribbean is very popular. We're talking like 80% popular. Again, part of the 80-20, the uprising as opposed to the doom loop, right? The difference, it seems to me, is the international affairs involve all the resources, time, attention, focus going to places 10,000 miles away that we have literally no national interest in whatsoever. Whereas we have a lot of national security interests in narco-terrorists in the Caribbean, smuggling in cocaine and fentanyl and the like into our country. So it looks like it's a very, very popular issue as long as he stays within the Western Hemisphere. That's key. We'll generally be very happy with whatever he does in the Western Hemisphere. The moment he goes off into the Middle East, forget about it. It will he'll be seen as Bush 2.0. It's me, but Dub. Yeah, hopefully we get the SCOTUS race districts and at least some of the other states. SCOTUS. Oh, race. Oh, okay. Yeah. So you're talking about the VRA, the Voting Rights Act, Section 2 overturn. Yes. It's very, you and I. Devious minds think alike there. That's the first thought I had as well. Hopefully VRA comes through and we get our 19 or whatever Politico had estimated the pickup would be. And then we could just look back at Indiana and say, we did this despite you. It's very similar to Nebraska. Nebraska did the same darn thing in 2024, getting rid of what is it? Their one district that splits their electoral college. You could have just done a winner takes all system like 48 other states have. Maine is the other one. They tend to cancel each other out because the Maine district ends up going red and the Nebraska district ends up going blue, so they just cancel each other out. But yeah, they just don't. It's funny. It's Midwest Republicans are very lazy, lackluster Republicans. They're not Tennessee Republicans, Texas Republicans, Florida Republicans, North Carolina Republicans, because of the refugees. Arizona Republicans, by the way. Refugees are all flooding into those states. They're moving from their blue states into these red states, and now they're making them deep red. We were concerned they were going to bring left-wing politics with them. It's the exact opposite. They're bringing far right. They made, like my buddy Brian, who went down to Florida. I mean, I guarantee you, he is. I guarantee I know Brian well. He's making Florida deep red, very, very strongly red, and that's the pattern. It takes so much energy to move that one of the reasons you're moving is to get away from their politics, blue state politics. You are literally on the front lines to prevent it ever from coming into the red state that you just moved to. Voldemort, the Democrat Party is Sauron, and the Republican Party is Saruman. Voldemort, I love you, man. That is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. It's true. It's true. It's well said. The Democrat Party is sort of on. Yeah, because remember, I've often said the Democrats own DC, the Republicans only rent. So this is why the influence is always just one way. It's because the Democrats own the national apparatus of our politics. And the Republicans are just trying to skate by. And because most of these guys are in this as a business model to get rich, they to find power and prestige, if not during their tenure, after, when they leave, they all get very handsome positions in whatever, on boards and so on, make very, very nice income. They have to appease the Democrats because the Democrats own everything. They accumulated that power over 70 years from FDR, and then 40 years of a Democrat monopoly over Congress. So yeah, I love it. It's perfect. Sauron oversees the darkness of Middle Earth, and Saruman is just along for the ride. Harry, Dr. Steve, big election this Sunday in Chile as the Trump of Chile, Jose Cast, is leading the radical socialist Yanet Yara in the polls. And so if he wins, that'll flip another Latin American country from blue to red. There is a Trump effect going on. We saw it also a bit in 2016. Jair Bolsonaro followed up in 2018. I think it was 2019 when Nayib Bukele won. I thought so. Yeah, I think it's 2019 when he won El Salvador. So yeah, we started to see it. Paraguay had gone very, very far to the right. Lots of amazing. So Colombia had gone to the right prior to this latest silly government. So yes, I'm watching it, my friend, and I'm rooting for Chile to be wonderful to see that happen. And it looks like it's good. Trump always had. It's very interesting. Trump always had, I think Robert Barnes talked about this because he studied a lot of Latin American populism. And he always said that Trump always had sort of the flair of a Latin American populist. He always had that machismo, almost like the white suit kind of very, very masculine sort of power politics that speaks on behalf of the people. So yes, I would love to see that. Joan, why is Indiana so crucial if other red states redistrict? So in the end, they're not. They're not. We're still ahead. But it's just this. Yeah, Joan, it's a great question. I think it's just the kick in the gut, or punch in the gut, I guess I should say. Kick in the gut would be really bad. I think it's just the seeing 19 21, 22 Republicans vote against it. More Republicans voted against it than for it. And you're just like, so you're voting with Gavin Newsom rather than Trump. It felt like an incredible betrayal, which it was in many respects. But in the end, no, to get every seat counts. And when you're coming down to, we only have a 220 majority. That's a 2-seat majority. You need 218. So just say it came down, we kept all our seats or we lost 2 of our seats. And then if we had these 2 red seats from Indiana, we'd still be in the majority versus 2 years of a Hakeem Jeffries dominated Congress. It just feels like they're playing by a politics that's not even remotely within the realm of reality. Maximilian, Trump did nothing about Kirk's assassination that shouldn't have been done on January 20th of 2017. Why should I support Trump when he does nothing when we die? Ooh, okay. All right. Well, I'd push back on you a little bit. You don't know that. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. What we see, our perception of things is very limited. We just have to be blunt with that. It's very, very limited. And we tend to see only what they want us to see. Every once in a while, it blows apart. I think Epstein, in many ways, was something that blew apart. Or Watergate blew apart. But again, intentionally so. I shouldn't even say that. They tend to only let us see what they want us to see. And both sides do that. That said, I'll say this. I think you need to trust. I mean, Don Trump Jr. was literally bawling when he was, I forget, one of the shows talking about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was very close to the Trump family, and Lara Trump too, in particular. So I think this was and Stephen Miller. I think this was and JD. This is very personal for them. So the notion that they're doing nothing is hard for me to swallow. But even that said, why would you allow for the party that wants to kill you to come in power? Okay. Yes, the party that's doing nothing is, granted your premise, is bad enough, but it's infinitely worse to put the party that wants to kill and that killed Charlie into power, or implicated in the killing comes to power. So I hear you. There's a real frustration here right now with the party. You're talking Trump. That's interesting. So he has to do more to show what the heck he's doing to dismantle this left-wing, domestic terror organization. He is doing something with Antifa. And that's ultimately where this goes, seems to me, in terms of a funded network with lawyers and everything like that to bail you out when you get into trouble. And, but I would push back on that. You can't, again, by default, put the party in power that's trying to kill you, in spite of the party that doesn't want to kill you, but you feel like it's not doing enough. I just maybe that's a little food for thought there. But we'll have to see. Again, Trump's going to have to do more to show you, particularly, how he is actually resolving this murderous vermin that has infested so much of the left. Shoot, did you see the face of London's Muslim mayor when he realized, I did see this, when he realized what Christmas is really about, when he had to sing, "Hark the Herald Angels Sing, Glory to the Newborn King." Yes, it was gold. I did see that. Shoot, I did see that. If you guys haven't seen that yet, so what is his name? Khan, London's mayor. Just put in London Mayor Christmas or something like that. Put it in X and you'll see it. He's having to sing a Christmas carol that basically, violates his Muslim beliefs. It's very, very fascinating. Very, very funny. Yeah. James, since the 80s, income has flatlined from illegals and jobs going to China. Now income should go up, and low income, middle income can afford homes. That's what we're hoping for. Again, what made America so strong coming out of the war is we had a rising standard of living for the working class. And the idea was, as the working class's standard of living rose, so the upper class, all classes' standard of living rise. Even the underclass, the lower classes' standard of living would rise, largely because the way capitalism works at its best is through mass scale. So capitalism at its best offers something for everybody. So, look at Google. Look at what we're doing now, right? Look at the internet. Look at Amazon. It offers something for everybody. Look at, Uber Eats or, DoorDash and so on. Capitalism at its best offers something for everybody, for either for free, like Google, or for very minimal price, and the product would be excellent, high quality, and affordable for all. And it was just, the idea was the more the upper class was growing in its wages, the more the opportunities there would be for entrepreneurs to scale their products to a demographic that can afford it. That would then, in turn, enable them to trickle down into underclass and the affordability there. What happened with globalism, exactly like you're saying, is wages flatlined, deliberately so, among the working class. And then they found a way of getting upper class wages skyrocket, not even, I should say, earnings skyrocketing, so that their income went up while working class income was flat. The earnings for the high income earners in the United States went up over 350%. Remember, Wall Street bonuses every year, Wall Street bonuses are higher, almost twice as high as the total amount paid out for the year in minimum wage. I forgot. I think minimum wage is $15 billion a year, whereas Wall Street bonuses are over $30 billion a year. So they figured out through globalism a way of being able to profit and see their earnings skyrocket, all the while keeping the middle class flat. And Trump is changing that. He's absolutely changing that, making manufacturing and industry and working class issues his number one priority. We actually saw that in the brand new National Security Strategy of 2025 that was just released, where he talked about the Western Hemisphere as now being the central focus of American foreign policy, and the American worker as the central constituent of American domestic policy. So brilliant. Well put, James. Very good. Franz Harry Enton reported a 30% drop in support from the youth vote. Is that accurate? And could that be what is motivating the rhinos? Good question on both ends. Probably not. I don't think that's what's motivating the rhinos. They're motivated by their donors. They're motivated by their power structure, the cultural space they live in that is so alienated from MAGA and the grassroots of the new Republican Party. I'd have with Enton. You can never tell. I tend to feature him when there's good news, because CNN's audience does not want to hear it. CNN's audience wants to hear bad news for Trump. They don't want to hear good news. So when he reports that I put that through that filter and then conclude, whoa, something awesome must be happening. If even he's going to do that, if he's going to present it to a CNN audience and deflate them and demoralize them, it must be something very impressive that's objectively happening that they can't be found slow-footed on when everybody else is going with it. So I tend to feature his polls when they make the Democrats look so bad and Republicans look so good. But that said, there is no question Trump has been hurt with the 30 and under, particularly 30 and under male voter. And again, I think it was largely, they love Doge, apparently. Mark Mitchell has data on that. They love Doge. They love Elon. They love big balls. And they love seeing the federal monstrosity of waste, fraud, and abuse dismantled. They loved that. And then we got rid of it. I mean, Doge is still there, but it's just not, for whatever reason, they haven't made it one of their centerpieces anymore. Elon left. And so, and then I think they really, really disliked the bombing in the Middle East. Again, this, for right or for wrong, it's irrelevant. It's just, we do seem to have data that shows that the constituency that really disliked that the most was the Gen Z vote, the 30 and under. And so he's going to have to work to get that back. Also, affordability is a real issue for them. They don't have their nest eggs yet. They don't have their investments yet. You got to work your way up to making money. You don't just start off making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars straight out of college or whatever, straight out of high school. It takes a while to get there, to probably to your 40 or so. For me, I was an academic. I never saw that in all my in my pre-YouTube years. So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll definitely keep an eye on it. But again, I think in the end, they do like JD. They do like Elon. They do like MAGA. And you just have to be true. I mean, governing is messy. It's always been, always will be. Reagan found that out. Governing is messy. But as we've seen with people like Nayib Bukele, if you can resolve the problems of crime and violence and a sense of fear and threats to your safety, If you can resolve that while bringing the cost of living down and revitalizing your economy, you'll win in landslides every time. Aug 10th, with enough political pressure, is it possible for Indiana GOP to reconvene and change their votes, or is that wishful thinking? Happy Friday. Thanks, Aug 10th. Yeah, I think that's wishful thinking. That's not going to happen. Not with a vote, not with a slaughter like that. And then they'll feel like they're going to look weak. I'm sure the governor is. He's going to. Was it Braun? I forget. He's going to. He might feel out to see if they can squeak out a majority in another vote. But right now, I think 11 of them, 12 of them are up for re-election for next year, and they will all get voted out. I mean, we saw this. It happens every time. Just ask Marjorie Taylor Greene. Just ask all the 10 rhinos that voted to impeach Trump back in 2021. They're all gone. It's just there's no point. So there had to have been a deal for retirement or whatever, and that they would get on all these boards. Like Adam Kinzinger ends up getting on CNN. They find all these deals. Cheney's independently wealthy through Halliburton. So, but no, we're going to have to go into 2026 without Indiana at this point. Kevin, how do I help this movement? Oh, bless your heart, Kevin. Boy, there's so many things to do. You could get in touch with Early Vote Action. You can get in touch with Pennsylvania Chase. That's our good friend Cliff Maloney. Get in touch with Turning Point USA and see what you can do at the grassroots level to help out. And they'll let you know. It could be just writing a check. They may just need some money. Or they may need some time. They might need you to just send out texts. That's a lot of people don't realize being involved could be as simple as sending out like 50 texts. That's on behalf of a particular candidate. So I'd get in touch with any one of those organizations, and I'm sure they will be happy to get you busy. Thank you, Kevin. That's awesome. In human condition, Dr. Steve, people are losing faith. We never have accountability. Letitia James walked scot-free only yesterday for mortgage fraud again. No accountability emboldens the commie left and weakens the right's resolve. Couldn't agree with you more. We gotta, I agree with you 1,000%. We have to see the perp walks. We have to see, I mentioned there was two aspects to dismantling the administrative state. One is the dismantling proper, and that was Doge. And then the second would be the indictment. So you've got the dismantling of the structure, and then you have holding the people who have abused their power accountable. And we saw the first. It is since dissipated. It may still be going on, but we're not seeing it on the front page anymore of what Doge is doing in terms of dismantling the administrative state. And now we are waiting for indictments. And we got a few, and now we saw one thrown out, Letitia James, and it looks like Comey's could be another one that might get thrown out as well. We'll see what happens with Bolton, but yep, we're waiting. So I'm with you. I don't know what to say about it. I can only say, keep the faith so long before there's what do we say with the Stockdale principle? The perpetual optimist ends up dying of a broken heart. And I think that's a lot of us, don't worry. It'll come by Christmas. It'll come by Easter. It'll come by the summer. It'll come by Christmas. I'm with you. So again, keep the faith, stay strong. Trump's in power for the next 3 years, also, 3 years and over a month. And a lot of great things are going to happen in the process. We own the DOJ, we own the FBI. A lot of great things are going to happen, but we need them happening now. We're a little upset with how many losses we've suffered since November. Benton in the Texas Senate primary, Senator John Cornyn is considered to be a rhino. We got Ken Paxton, Wesley Hunt are also candidates. I hope Paxton beats Cornyn. Paxton is MAGA. What's your take, Doctor? So, yeah, I like Ken Paxton as well. I do. I like Ken Paxton. I like Wesley Hunt as well, but I think Paxton has more of the national apparatus. I mean, he's one AG now, and that's a national or national. Listen to me, statewide office. So I think he has the apparatus to win Senate pretty easily. I think John Cornyn's days in a super red Texas are over. That's the sense I get. I think his days are over. So it looks like Paxton will probably pull it off in the primary, and if it's Ghetto Girl going after him, he'll win in a landslide. Lucian, during your segment a few days ago about districts, did that include the 19 seats from the ending of Section 2? No, if I did a final count where we were up like a net, what was it, something like 3, 4, 5, something like that? No, that didn't include the 19. If we do the 19, that changes the entire equation. Let's put it this way: I think we can breathe relatively easy if and when the VRA is overturned. I think we can breathe relatively easy. It's going to be extremely hard for the Democrats to win the seats they need to hit 2018 at that point. So we'll see. We're waiting with bated breath. Doomsday Machine. Hey, Doc, been a fan since around 2017. Thanks, Doomsday. Appreciate that. Can't afford much since I'm 24 and closed on a house just a week ago. Just wanted to say God bless to all. Well, God bless you, Doomsday, and everyone. Congrats, man. Your first house. That is awesome, dude. That's awesome. You're 24 and you just closed on a house, dude. When I buy my first house, I don't think I got a house till I was in my 30s, early 30s. I think it was renting up to that point. So God bless you, Doomsday. I really appreciate that. Richard Waring, Trump needed to go out with replace the rhino push. Needed to go out with replace the rhino push. Replace the rhino. Or needs. I think needs probably. Yeah. Yeah, he will. He will. I think he's very, very, as you can see by the name of the title of this video, he is very pissed right now. He's very, very upset that the Republicans in Indiana, and again, make no mistake, this was Mike Pence's sort of revenge. So Pence is the most prominent. He was governor, remember. He's the most prominent member of Indiana's Republican Party, next to Dan Quayle. Prior to him, he was the last Indiana vice president. So he's very prominent. He has a lot of pull. He has a lot of sway. And he made it clear he did not want this to pass. He wanted to embarrass Trump and make MAGA faithful feel deflated. Who needs Gavin Newsom when you've got Indiana Republicans? So yes, I would like to see replace the rhino push. That sounds great. It's me, BW. If they take Congress, Trump's agenda's over. Nothing will pass. I don't understand your answer. Hey, it's me, W. What's passed? I know we got the triple B, but what's passed? What's passed? Congress is dysfunctional. Nothing passes. We are an executive order nation right now. We are executive power nation. So to say Trump's agenda is over, Trump has the power of the executive branch, was significantly more than anything a bunch of legislative goons can do at this point. So that's my answer to you. We've passed triple B, and that's pretty much it. That's it. His agenda. Now, a lot of his agenda was in triple B, but outside of that, what have they done? What have they? Senate's still holding up his judicial nominees. We're almost a year in, and they're still holding up the nominees because these whatever they're called, blue chip processes and so on. That Thune could easily get rid of, but of course he's not. Why? He's a Midwestern Republican. Midwestern Republicans suck. Keep them very, very far away from anything we're doing, any position of leadership. Stick with Southern Republicans. They're the best. Will O'Toole, Dr. Steve, good afternoon. Miami election of Democrat mayor. Is this a foreshadowing of things to come for the GOP? Well, no, it's not. I think there was a lot of, I think, as I understand it, there was a lot of failure on the part of DeSantis in getting involved. He didn't really do anything. That's what I'm hearing. And And by the way, this is not as unprecedented as a lot. This is the first Democrat in like 38. That's not true. That's not true. Manny Diaz, look him up. He was mayor during the Bush years, and everyone's like, but he was an independent. He was a Democrat. He switched to independent. Was able to pull off a win, I think two terms, and then he went back to becoming a Democrat. He actually became the Democrat chair of Florida. So that was just a few years back. Look, the last mayoral race in Miami had over, if I recall, 140,000 votes. Look that up. This one was about 37,000 on a December Tuesday. It's just, yeah. Again, I think the only thing that it signals is that the Republican Party right now doesn't really care about off-year elections or off-year elections. They're not putting any time, money, energy into any of these elections. I just think Mike Whatley leaving the RNC, ever since he left, and Laura Trump, ever since they left, the party's apparatus has just absolutely imploded. It's just not doing anything. Now, the good news is it can shine forth very quickly and very powerfully with the right leadership, as I talked about, at the precinct levels, donor levels, and get out the vote levels. But right now, they're just not doing anything. And so Mike Cernovich thinks that's purposeful. These are rhino neocons who are trying to thwart Trump in order to thwart J.D. Vance in 2028. So in that sense, yes, this would be a harbinger of what's going to happen in 2026. I'm just hoping that enough of us put enough pressure on the Trump administration and the Trump inner circle to intervene and begin to take over the different levels of the party apparatus to make it vibrant and viable for 2026. But I wouldn't put a lot of stock in a mayoral race in a deep red state. And by the way, Miami-Dade is red now. The voter registration surpassed the Republican voter registration, surpassed the Democrats. So nobody came out. Nobody cares. They're happy with Trump in the office. It's known as a refractory period. It happened to Reagan. It's just part of democratic politics, the politics of a democracy or a constitutional republic. It's just part of it. It's just people are happy with the president in office, and they would rather, frankly, go to work or take the day off than go vote. And by the way, we have too many freaking elections in this country. I'm sorry. We should have a single day of election that both sides can gear up, set it up, but just an election here, an election there, an election. It's insane. It's stupid. That's my opinion on that. Well, off topic. Who's your pick, Army or Navy? I don't have one, man. I used to live in Baltimore. So I used to be a guitarist. I played several times at the Navy Academy, the Naval Academy in Annapolis, which is unbelievable. It's so beautiful. The John Paul Jones Shrine is amazing. So I don't know. Maybe just for that, since I knew a lot of the midshipmen there, I'll go with Navy on that. But that's just because, not because of anything inherent in the organizations themselves. Will O'Toole, has BlackRock purchased all the LA properties that were forest fired? I do not know. I haven't followed up, but like with the Maui fires, it just seems like there's a lot of nefarious crap going on with rebuilding efforts. If Trump was in charge of this, or DeSantis was in charge of this, or Abbott was in charge of it, this would have been fully rebuilt by now. But of course, you have incompetent lunatics in charge, and you get the result. And they'll bring in their globalist friends, no question. But I haven't availed myself of the latest. Todd Blanche, your thoughts? Why am I blanking on that? Oh yeah, no, yeah. I just need to say I'm a face guy as opposed to name guy. Well, again, until we see real serious indictments, perp walks, convictions, and so forth, it's just like, well, on paper, he's great. On Fox News, he's great. But what have you done? That's what I want to see. So jury's still out for me. Nice little metaphor. Kevin, close the D.C. Circuit Court. Amen. Open the missing American Samoa District Court. Ooh, cool. And move all D.C. district judges to U.S. territory Samoa. F around and find out. I love it. I've never heard anything so creative. I love it. I love it. Absolutely. Isn't it Samoa that aren't they the ones that designate themselves officially like a Christian nation? I think. I know they're territories, but they have their own constitution. If I recall, it's Samoa. I might be wrong. It's one of those, kind of South Pacific islands. And they changed their constitution, and instead of God, they replaced God with the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the Holy Trinity. It's really kind of cool. So they made themselves officially a Christian nation, and specifically to avoid all kind of the woke nonsense that was being imposed on them by globalist leaders. I feel like we are the Moral Reform Chronicles. I feel like we're in the time between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, though we're winning something bigger and better is still. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I do. There is still a little post-normal lag. And so post-normal times is a period of time in human history between, it's an interim period between the end of one era and the yet to begin new era. And it is just crazy, and it's marked by chaos and complexity and contradiction, because it's in between a time, the previous time, that set the norms, that set the standards, that set that enabled things to be predictable. And another time, the other side, which is the time that's rising, but has yet to fully establish itself. So it's in between a no longer and a not yet. And that was certainly our 4 years with Joe Biden. I mean, I thought that was our 4 years under Trump as well. We were in post-normal times. That's how scholars refer to it. And I just felt, really honestly, at the beginning of January 20th, at the beginning of this administration, this term, it was like, well, we are, golden age. And the language is we're in a new paradigm. We're in a new era. But my, does the old era, the old guard, as it were, my, are they sticklers for hanging around and lagging. And that's what you do get during a post-normal period, is a lag effect from the old era, where the institution's still there, just nobody cares about them, trusts them anymore. They don't give them any legitimacy. So I'm with you. I do like that. We are kind of in between The Empire Strikes Back, which was certainly 2020, and The Return of the Jedi, certainly 2024. But again, Return of the Jedi, still, there was a lot of fighting to do, and it was, or Return of the King. There was a big epic. We still had an epic battle to fight. Necrophiliac. Democrats are unaware that their election fixing apparatus is being dismantled because they never accepted that it existed. They're not going to accept election results that they don't win. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think you're right. I think that caught them off guard in 2024. I do. I think a lot of even Democrat insiders believed that 2020 was genuine, and that it was just going to happen again for Kamala. They actually believe they had 81 million voters. They actually believe that. And so Trump can get his 79 million or whatever. But we're going to get our 81 million. And I think they were absolutely shocked to find 5 or 6 million voters just disappeared between 2020 and 2024. So yes, all of their shenanigans can end up always boomeranging, and as they normally do. What's the old saying, right? What goes around comes around. Well, two questions. Since the FBI and CIA are not outlined in the Constitution, why can't Trump just rid of these two bureaucracies and set up a new organization? Just give it to the military and the FBI, to ATF. Well, that's neat with the FBI and the ATF. No, as I understand it, now that it's been so interwoven into Article 1 powers, Congress, if he was going to completely get rid of it, he's gonna have to get them to go along with that. If he was going to get rid of the FBI and CIA, or completely or reappropriate them, he would have to go. He would have to get congressional approval for that. Already, his dismantling of the Department of Education is getting challenged. That's going to be a little harder, because it's a much more recent creation than CIA and FBI, and it's not so interwoven into the national security apparatus. But because Congress has written laws regarding FBI, CIA, they've had congressional hearings on it and all, it's just going to be harder to dismantle. But I think Trump could do a lot with FBI and CIA that he has not done yet, and we'll have to see what's going on, particularly with cash at FBI. What do you think the old white guys who crafted the Constitution never included a spy and law enforcement agencies department? Yeah. No, I think you're just being cynical. You smell that? That's called sarcasm. Yeah. No. I mean, we have since. I mean, the telegraph changed everything. The telegraph connected us to each other. The telegraph enabled me. Telegraph wires enabled me to come literally into your room audibly, just by ringing up a code, and it just separated space in a way we just had never been separated before. And you can't. I mean, that invention has amazing and wonderful things, but there's also, with all technologies, there's also be something very nefarious as well. And it means they can figure out how to spy. They can figure out how to literally infiltrate your space without you knowing. So yeah, things changed in the 19th century for sure. Thanks, Georgia. Very sweet of you. Thank you. Kevin, how do we get the oil and gas industry to fund MAGA? Oil and gas. Well, they are definitely they are more prone to MAGA because they're very concerned about the green energy initiatives of the left that are just an inherent part of the left. Notice we haven't heard them freaking out about it. I mean, all the Inflation Reduction Act was nothing other than a Green New Deal, grab bag giveaway. And ever since that, it just seems like all the organizations that could have been enriched by that just kind of took their money and ran. Greta's a joke now. Nobody takes her seriously. So it just seems like the whole industry's falling apart. That said, I think the oil industry, gas, they want the energy independence. Again, I guess if they're very globalist, they might be more prone to Democrats, in terms of Middle East oil or just international oil, Venezuela and so on. But generally speaking, Russian as well. But generally speaking, no, I think they are already behind us in terms of just MAGA's commitment to energy independence. Wild and Crazy Bear, I wonder why Obama won Indiana 2008. Well, Wild and Crazy Bear, I was thinking about that today. I was thinking about that when I was prepping for the show. I was like, yeah, Midwest Democrats, Midwest Republicans, they ain't the same. They're not deep red Republicans. They're not Tennessee. They're not Texas. They're not even Arizona at this point, though. Arizona's been flirting a little bit, obviously. It was until the massive voter registration advantage the Republicans have got now. It's 7-8% above Democrats at this point. But Indiana is that one Midwest state, as is North Carolina, that one Southern state that Well, outside of Georgia too, I think Georgia won. But Georgia again has always been the bluest of the southern red states. Yeah, yeah. Midwest Republicans are milquetoast Republicans. They're lazy, ideologically lazy. They vote Republican because that's what they've been doing for ages. But even you see it a bit in Utah. But my heavens, you find, or Nebraska, you find like a Democrat who's exciting or so forth. They'll hitch onto that bandwagon in a heartbeat. They're not our friends in that sense. And Mike Pence proved that. Mike Pence himself didn't. What was it? They were going to have. Didn't they have a bathroom bill? Do you remember that when Pence was governor? They had a bathroom bill where they were going to force, by law, their citizens to use the bathroom of their biological sex. And then all, the Indianapolis 500. No, was it? Yeah, it was the NBA. I think they were doing the NBA finals there. They threatened to pull out all these sports teams, all these Hollywood, entertainment, glitz and glamour places, big corporations. I thought Walmart's, and they all threatened to pull out of Indiana, and they capitulated. They said, "Oh, okay, never mind." They capitulated because their donors got very, very nervous. Yeah, they're not our friend. Obviously not. Franz, it seems that Trump's political composite is like Pat Buchanan sprinkled with some Bill Clinton. or am I seeing things? Okay, where's the Bill Clinton coming in? Are you saying kind of like maybe the way he could speak to the audience, or just really good communicator or whatever? Definitely Pat Buchanan. Pat Buchanan was writing about the end of globalism and the liberal international order in the early 1990s, along with Sam Huntington, along with Guillaume Faye. Huntington's The Clash of Civilizations thesis that was in 91 or 92. Guillaume Faye was writing about archaeofuturism, that society was going to go back and bring together science and religion, technology and tradition. That globalist liberal societies had tried to keep apart, and that combination would reawaken the old civilizations. Pat Buchanan argued we were inevitably going to go back to a republic as opposed to an empire, the title of one of his books. That was all early 90s, but it was too early. It was too early. They were what was it? The Nietzsche poem, the madman, who carried his lantern in midday, talking about the death of God. You have no realization of what you've all done. It's a parable of what the 19th century had done to classical religion. It had killed it, destroyed it. You were going to usher in a century where man now would act like he was God, and we're going to bring in these extraordinary grand sort of dictators and so forth. And of course, communism and fascism rise, and of course, globalism in its own way. So, I think what you end up having in many respects here is Buchanan was like this guy running around saying, "Okay, you don't understand. This is about to happen, but I can see it. I can see the logic of your actions and what the next century is going to bring." So Buchanan was very much like what Nietzsche called the madman, who was the canary in the coal mine, saying, "This is where the world is going. The world is tribalizing. The world is re-territorializing. The world is going back to civilization, nation, culture, custom, tradition, religion, identity. And America has to learn to find its place in that world." And in 2016, if you looked at Trump's platform and you looked at Pat Buchanan's platform when he was challenging George Herbert Walker Bush for the nomination in 92, and then when he ran himself in 96, they are virtually identical. They are literally virtually identical. Border security, economic security, cultural security. The three post-security, three elements of post-security politics. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. He is Pat Buchanan. I don't know whether Bill Clinton, maybe just the way he communicates or whatever. So, Necrophiliac, Miami is not a political bellwether, but Miami-Dade County is a great microcosm where the nation is at. It's a tale of two cities. Well said, Necrophiliac. And you nailed it right there. So our good buddy Seth Keshel, the election analyst and predictor, election model predictor, has said that no Republican has won Miami-Dade and not gone on to win the national election as a whole. No Republican presidential candidate. So you're right on. It is a bellwether. I don't think it's a bellwether for Democrats, but it is a bellwether for Republicans. And but Miami itself is not. Well said. Very excellent distinction. You are officially an election analyst. ROT Corp. Oh, great and learned Patriot professor. How do we know Trump isn't saving the indictments for close to the midterm? Good. No, that's you. Well said. Thank you, ROT. We needed that. Thank you for that. Again, we don't know. Our perspective is very limited. We have our resolution is very low in terms of what we can see. And we just have to admit that, and it just takes some humility. And what RRT Corp just did there is he just he called that bluff. How do you know? How do you know he's not saving it until closer to the midterms? And then that's going to fire up the base like never before. It's true. That may be exactly what he's doing. And he's willing to weather some of these defeats, these smaller defeats. And they're tiny defeats that we try to blow up, right? We're worried we'll blow up into these larger macro defeats. But in the end, we're only seeing micro defeats. And we shouldn't be too worried about it. It doesn't seem Trump is at all. So maybe he knows something we don't. Mitchell, LOL, when do you think they will come out with a decision? Is that Supreme Court? Are you talking about with the VRA? I heard VRA is supposed to come out in January, if that's what you're talking about. Joan, how do we get low prop voters to wake up and vote without being pushed? So the strategy, Joan, with low and no, because you even have no prop voters, people who've just registered but never voted before. The strategy with them is to get them in early with mail-in ballots. So that is where Pennsylvania Chase comes in. They only go to, that's Cliff Maloney. They only go to Republican homes. I think also Early Vote Action does this. They only go to homes where they have somebody who's registered Republican, and they find that they have not voted in, I think, 3 of the last 4 elections. So by definition, low prop, or if they are no prop, if they haven't voted. And they make sure they get a mail-in ballot. And then they do a follow-up visit to make sure that mail-in ballot got mailed in. And if it didn't, they do another follow-up visit. So that's the knocking on doors. And then the logic is you get all your low to no prop voters voting early by mail, so that who's coming out on election day? Who's coming out on ED? It's your super propensity voters who would admit they'll crawl over broken glass just to get there. So that's the strategy. But you do need a very effective get out the vote campaign to get them voting en masse. And we did pretty well in Virginia and New Jersey. Election analysts, I didn't share this too much with you guys. I did a little bit, not much. But election analysts like Christian Hines, who nail Virginia politics, Virginia elections, nailed 2024, nailed 2026, or 2025. They were saying that these numbers aren't big enough in terms of the early votes to win this election. It's just not going to happen. So we do need to improve in the area of early voting, mail-in voting, and some do in-person early voting. We do have to improve in that area so as to make sure that the Democrats don't amass that huge firewall, so that when we do come out in mass on election day, we crush them. Rock Dog, the Barbarian, Dr. Steve. The way I'm feeling it, it still seems the Democrat plantation still has an uphill battle to try to win the House. The VRA is ruled unconstitutional. It's a done deal. But without that, I'm still seeing an uphill battle for them. Am I missing something? Even in California, those redistrict seats are not guaranteed Democrat since they're heavily Republican combined with one district. No, you're right. I don't know. The uphill for Republicans is just simply the historical pattern. So the historical pattern is like almost like 90% of the time, the party that is in power loses seats, and we only have 2 to spare, right? So the party in power loses seats. The party that's out of power gains seats. That's only not happened 3 times in our entire republic. So that's all. That's what we're now. That said, what you have going for the Republicans are a few things. Exactly what you said, all the redistricting. And then that lends itself to the fact that there's just not that many contested seats anymore. I think I just read it. There's only about 19 contested seats that could go either way. Pretty much all other seats are either solid red or solid blue. And the good news is we're coming out on top on that count. So we just need a few more solid red seats. That's what made what Indiana did so disappointing. But if we get the VRA ruling in our favor, it will work in our it'll work in our favor as well. But you're right. It just seems that the congressional elections of old had far more contested seats than they do today. And so the window is closing on any kind of real massive swing back and forth in terms of who controls Congress in relation to who's in power in the White House. Very good question. Excellent. BBG JG2KN. Joking? Glad to see Trump on the campaign trail. He needs to hear from people. Mark Mitchell had a good suggestion. Invite an average MAGA voter to the White House. Absolutely. Mark has been talking about that for quite some time. But absolutely. Very, very important. And Trump does listen. You do have to. That is what makes Trump so fascinating, is he does listen to his constituency, and he is on Twitter. He may not want to admit that, but he does listen to who's on there. Raffin me, does Congress have more power than the people? And if so, how can we change that? Well, do they have more power than the people? I mean, yes, in the sense that we can't pass laws. They can, right? They have the power, but that power is supposed to be exercised in such a way that is commensurate with the values, interests, concerns of the people. And that way you have what's called an aristopopulist society, where you're always going to have an aristocracy. You're always going to have a ruling class. You're always going to have a wealthy few. But historically, the healthiest societies are when the aristocracy uses their power and wealth for the sake of, in order to enact the values, interests, and concerns of the people. So again, that's where you have the philanthropy. That's where you have the founding of parks, beautiful manicured parks for the people, music conservatories, libraries, churches. You go to the city and you see those beautiful European sort of Gothic style Edwardian churches. Those are coming from late 19th century, well, some late 19th, early 20th century with the nouveau riche, those who made their money with the Industrial Revolution and trade and so on. So those are, yeah, I mean, they're always going to have more power than the people in that they can exercise laws. It gets bad, like we saw with Indiana, when you have an oligarchy, when the aristocracy is replaced by an oligarchy who rule and use their power and their affluence to enact and advance the values, interests, concerns of an aloof, alienated political class. That's what I think we saw in Indiana. They weren't enacting the will of the people of Indiana. They were enacting they were enacting Mike Pence's will. That was the revenge of Mike Pence. So you need aristopopulism. Ash Rose, do you think that Donald Trump has been saving releasing the Epstein files for midterms tactics as well? It'd be genius. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I have. I always thought he was trying to get a little bit closer to the midterms with that as a way of embarrassing lots and lots of Democrats who are in the House who are up for re-election. So again, we'll have to see. It'd be the same thing with the indictments. Necrophilia, what's your take on this diminutive Provo judge in the assassination case? He's giving me bad feelings on the outcome of this. You're talking about Charlie's? I haven't caught up with it, to be honest with you, Necrophiliac. I'd have to take a look. Again, the whole thing is just so sad for me. Just really just sad and tragic at every level. Just what the fallout, what's happened within the MAGA camp, what Candace Owens is doing. Just really tragic stuff all the way through. I'm hoping that TPUSA is able to weather through that and become the formidable force that they were, actually magnify that formidable force for 2026. So I'll have to catch up with the guy. I don't know. Father 5934, Dr. Totally bit off topic, but are you aware of the push for the showing of ID age verification use social media here in the United States by GOP senators and by WEF allies in Europe, UK, and Australia? A little bit. I'm seeing a bit of, proof of age and so forth. We'll have to see. I think that's a little silly in a sense. It seems to me, what is it? A VPN can get around stuff like that. I mean, there's all kinds of ways of getting around China's firewall. There'll be all kinds of ways to get around this. So I don't think there's anything about banning the internet and social media as much as it's just learning to navigate it. Deonra, thank you so much, Deonra. Very kind of you. All right, and that's it, gang. I plan to be your back porch Patriot professor, right? You're a Patriot back porch professor over the weekend. So make sure to check in with our channel for all kinds of updates as the breaking news comes out for analysis you're not going to hear anywhere else. Love you guys. God bless. We'll see you.